Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. This is Cyrus, and in today's video I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a little bit, and it's how a transcendental experience, a psychedelic experience, is not an afterlife experience, although there could be similarities or a relationship between these different types of experiences, but also how that confusion could be one of the things that creates a lot of the general confusion in this area, how I think there needs to be more of a distinction drawn between these types of experiences, especially when people report on them or use one experience maybe incorrectly to discern information about something that's potentially unrelated. And also just the mystery of trying to define what some of these psychedelic or maybe transcendental experiences really are and what they mean. So I have a few thoughts about that on today's episode. Before we get started, as always, if you haven't done so yet, hopefully you'll consider subscribing to this channel. The subscriptions help keep this whole thing going. You may also be interested in signing up as a patron over at patreon.com/afterlife topics. That's if you want to work with me personally, or also join the private patron group. You can also do that at afterlifetopics.com/university. All right, so to continue, I want to bring this up because since I first started participating in forums about this subject, probably going on almost 20 years ago when I was a wee lad, I don't think people knew back then that there was a 12-year-old writing up stuff about this subject, but that was me when I was that age. I was going on forums debating this stuff even back then. So over many years, I have noticed a tendency for people to conflate experiences together, sometimes in ways that I think create a lot more confusion than anything else. A transcendental experience we could describe as an experience of merging with the cosmos, merging with God. Typically happens during near-death experiences. It can occur from DMT or other psychedelics, or peyote possibly, or ayahuasca, but more typically happens during NDEs. It can also happen spontaneously as a STE, like a spiritually transformative experience, when your consciousness suddenly expands in an amazing way. Now, this may be combined with a sensation of leaving the body, but it involves sometimes more of an inner experience than perhaps an outer experience, in the sense that you're no longer feeling as if you are connected to your physical body, but you're not necessarily in a defined or tangible environment. You are more like in a state of consciousness, a state of mind that has massively expanded and may encompass a sense of awareness, peace, love, or interconnectedness to the world around you, the universe around you. And of course, these are very profound experiences that can occur when somebody is under cardiac arrest, and I personally believe they are facilitated or connected in some way to a higher power or a personal higher power, such as a so-called spirit guide, in the sense that somebody is being taken on a trip, or their consciousness is massively expanding in a controlled or directed way by some higher power. Again, these are really important and great experiences to have, and I've only touched the surface of these types of experiences in my own meditation work or OBE work or things like that. The next type of experience is, of course, a psychedelic experience. Also, it's not something that has been accurately defined in, I guess, mainstream cognitive sciences. Of course, you won't find a lot of information about these subjects in mainstream academia. However, the best way to maybe look at a psychedelic experience is a inner growth experience that's happening to you from a outside force, like a chemical, causing a distortion or alteration in the brain that allows if you want to call it, a frequency shift to occur, where you become aware, and in particular, of the inner consciousness and the inner world, which we get glimpses of in certain dream states. but often it is a manifestation of everything that's inside manifesting into an outer spectacle, whether that's fears, insecurities, desires, hopes, dreams, loves, and passions, or maybe deep-seated issues, karmic issues, past life types of things, all of that coming to the surface and manifesting itself as this outer experience. Now, psychedelic experience can be frightening or it can be enlightening. There's different types of these experiences. They generally occur in a metaphorical way, just like with the dream state. So you might see something surprising, strange, odd, magnificent, whatever it may be. You may see different manifestations, and then it's a bit up to you, or perhaps if you're on some ayahuasca trip, a shamanic guide to help navigate and figure out what those images and what those experiences meant, and how you can use that to work through the complex fabric of your soul and figure out what things need to be fixed perhaps in your psyche. And that's the nature, I think, of a psychedelic experience. So next we have the afterlife experience, and this is where what I'm trying to do is distinguish that line between this type of experience and the others, because an afterlife experience should generally involve being in another realm of existence, and this can occur through out-of-body states, near-death experience states, or possibly projecting of consciousness, like in a remote viewing way, where you become aware, or you see, or you feel, or experience the quote other side, even while you're conscious and awake here. Some people can do that, or through spirit communication, whether that's clairaudience or maybe some kind of electronic means of communication, but making that connection to somebody in a different plane of existence. I have up on the lower right hand screen the book Bonded by Love. I edited this book, but released by Brenda Aller from our community. And this book has lots of experiences with her daughter in what we call the afterlife, which would be another realm of existence, and including through astral projection trips, through clairaudience, and also through electronic communication. And a lot of that information is consistent with everything else that I've studied and researched over the last couple decades. So again, consistent information about what these afterlife experiences are like. So the reason it's so valuable to draw the distinction between these types of experiences is because you don't actually learn a lot about the afterlife from a psychedelic experience. But in the afterlife, you don't necessarily learn about your inner subconscious workings like you would in a psychedelic experience. A transcendental experience, transcendental consciousness, again, you don't learn about an afterlife, but also in an afterlife experience, you may not learn the things that you would from a transcendental experience. A near-death experience sometimes involves a combination of all three. You have a transcendental experience with God or source consciousness, you have a psychedelic experience, and then you may find yourself in another realm of existence, or a literal realm of existence as well. So one of the many ways this causes confusion is that a transcendental experience may be equated with being in afterlife. So during a near-death experience, you may have a series of great transcendental experiences, and then you believe that the afterlife is just one big transcendental experience, which it's not. That, in fact, would not be sustainable for a soul to be able to have a soul lifestyle. A transcendental experience is, by its nature, designed to be something where you transplant yourself from, the realm you're in to go into a higher state of consciousness, basically to obtain wisdom, and then you take that wisdom back with you. So a transcendental experience doesn't have the literal or tangible elements of another realm of existence. So, for example, somebody who has a near-death experience may incorrectly report that the afterlife is a transcendental experience that just never ends. And for many people, that's not very reassuring, because it doesn't leave any option to be able to live a life, to see your loved ones again, or to or to actually quote unquote have an afterlife, unless you reincarnate. And then this creates that Well, what I think is a undue focus upon reincarnation. As people who watch this channel a lot know, I'd like to believe there's many options in the infinite multiverse besides just coming back to this world, places that are less detrimental to your psychic mental health as this world is, unless you just want one heck of a challenge. And you know, the nature of the human soul, always looking for the next big challenge. And so I get that, you know, why people come back here. I just think it's better not to be focused on reincarnation here like it's some kind of religion. So the belief that there is no other realm of existence, it's all just a big transcendental experience. Basically, that means that the go-to solution for that is reincarnation, because you can't really persist and have the growth that the human soul desires, or the experiences or the adventures that, you know, we all seem to want, by being in a never-ending transcendental experience. But that is the mythology, or it is the misconception that gets thrown out there. And there's books and authors. But one that comes to my mind is Anita Moorjani, very, very popular. But from what I recall from Anita Moorjani's NDE, it was more or less entirely transcendental experiences. And so people who are big fans of Anita Moorjani often dispute the things that I talk about on this channel or my experiences, because they say the afterlife is entirely floating around and merging with the light, or being part of source consciousness. So no, as you can see in the cover of our book, Bonded by Love, there's no beautiful forests in heaven, if you want to use that terminology, because it's all floating around, or it's all just being in a transcendental higher state of existence until you reincarnate and come back here. But these are all assumptions. These are assumptions being made because you're trying to discern an afterlife without looking at an afterlife experience, right? And that basically is the issue. So to learn about the afterlife, you have to look at afterlife experiences specifically. With NDEs, I've done this on this channel where I've perused different random NDEs, and you find there's almost like about a 50-50 or maybe 30-70 ratio of NDEs that include afterlife experiences. So not every NDE has an afterlife experience attached to it. If an NDE just includes going out of the body and looking at the operating room, while that's an out-of-body experience, it's still not quite an afterlife experience, because you don't go into a different realm of existence. An NDE that involves seeing or feeling the presence of God, or having sudden expanded cognizant abilities, or being able to feel like you're connected to the universe, while important and powerful, that's not necessarily a afterlife experience either. An afterlife experience would technically be an afterlife, so a life that's continuing after this one. And so this would manifest as being in a different plane of existence, being in a different realm, being around other souls who are tangible and coherent and individual consciousness, right? So that's the big distinction. On the same note, something I didn't include is dreams. So a normal dream that's not an astral projection experience is also not an afterlife experience. It's only an afterlife experience if you're in a different realm of existence and there's literal other people, other souls that you're sharing that realm with, which is basically the prerequisites of having an experience here in this life, right? So you're in a realm, in this case it's a planet, you're in a city, you're in a body, and you see people walking around, you can talk to them, learn from them, and see that they are separate from yourself. They're not, hopefully not, dream creations. They're real people that you can learn from, interact with, and feel their energy, that they're not illusions. And to me, these are the requirements for an afterlife experience to be verifiable, to be tangible, something that you can say, hey, this happened, and I was really in that other realm. So the main point I guess I want to get across is we have to be able to discern these different types of experiences to be able to provide accurate information to people. Without having that accurate information, then, by the way, if you hear the crazy Chinese crested screaming, they make this weird yowling sound. I am back in my Los Angeles room where I used to make videos way back, and periodically my videos would get interrupted by the yowling of a Chinese crested. But again, A objective experience includes things like Chinese cresteds yowling in the background because it's objective, it's sometimes unpredictable, and there's real people around you and real entities, real things happening. So the transcendental experience is also really important. The psychedelic experience is also really important. But for example, if somebody has an extended ayahuasca or DMT trip and it's really wild looking and very, I guess the word would be abstract, if it's very, very mental, inner world based, and like we famously see in hallucinogenic trips, maybe you're wandering a desert and the cactuses are melting and there's a moon with a big smiley face on it and everything's loopy and crazy. It would be inaccurate to look at that experience and say this is what the afterlife is like, just as it would be inaccurate to have a transcendental experience and say this is what the afterlife is like. Again, you have to have experiences in other planes of existence to be able, I think, to report about something on the other side. Now this does leave room for the question, like, what is the extent of the actual afterlife? Is it just one world we go to, or is it, is this other realm something that's much, 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 much bigger? And of course I would lean toward the latter, that you can have an afterlife experience, but really what you're experiencing is like the tiniest imaginable fraction of something that is infinitely bigger. We're talking about, one experience, one out-of-body experience, one trip to the other side. Wow, that dog is really kicking it up today. One trip to the other side would be the equivalent of picking up one grain of sand off the beach and comparing it to all the grains of sand in all the beaches in the world, and as well as maybe all the planets in the universe and all the beaches and all the planets and all the universe. And then your experience is like that one grain of sand that you pick up. So we're looking at the multiverse. We're looking at an endless variety of realms and worlds that could be explored, because this seems to be the nature of creation, the nature of God. Now you hear what I have to put up with when I'm back home. And it's always when I make a video too. It's not, the dog can be quiet the whole day, and as soon as I'm talking, the dog flips out. It may even be because the dog hears me in here talking, and the dog has like this permanent anxiety. Some kind of like, I think what happened is that there was somebody who died with just a massive anxiety problem because of like all the bad things they did in life. And then they died, they reincarnated, came back as that dog who just flips out and has panic crisis attacks if you leave it alone, like on a couch for 5 minutes. The owner gets to deal with all that, not me, but anyway. All right, so I guess you guys get the point here, and I know there's some complicated stuff to digest, and I'd be happy to, hopefully read your comments about what you think of this and why it's important to distinguish between these different concepts. And so that's it. Yeah, if you can get involved or learn more about afterlife experiences specifically by going to, afterlifetopics.com. Check out books like Understanding Life After Death, The Afterlife, and Beyond. Sign up as a patron. Of course, a special shout out to the patrons helping make this channel and my work possible, so I can still put some food on the table while I work on books, research this stuff, manage the communities, and handle the classes and do all that type of stuff. So special thanks to the patrons for making this possible. If you are a patron and you want a customized video, you want anything from me or for this channel, don't hesitate to shoot me an email, message me on Patreon, whatever it is, and I always prioritize you guys. If you have a bunch of complicated metaphysical questions and you're not a patron, unfortunately, I have to prioritize the patrons first. I may eventually be able to get to your email and your questions and be able to address it or bring it up. But I do have to prioritize the patrons first. So apologies if you have not heard back from me, if you have emailed me anything. All right, well, I guess that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys soon on the next one.